All right, we've got a show for you this Monday morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, wherever you are this day. You're very welcome along to us. We've got a competition for you. You can win 100 quid thanks to Best Menswear. We'll tell you how in just a couple of minutes' time. It's probably more than likely. I'm not sure about this, but it's probably more than likely if you share the stream wherever you're watching us. And wherever you're watching us this morning, you are very welcome. I'll give you the full details of that competition in a couple of minutes' time. In the meantime, Dave McIntyre, how are you?
I'm very well.
Welcome to the studio. What's rare is wonderful.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
A little bird, i.e. Tommy, told me that you were musing about whether or not this Liverpool team might be one of the greatest Premier League teams of all time. Or since the Premier League era.
Well, look, in order for you to be in this debate in an official capacity, you have to have won a Premier League title.
You're shooing them in. It's done. After the weekend, it's a done deal.
No, I'm prefacing the discussion by acknowledging that fact.
Okay.
And they will certainly not be considered one of the great Premier League teams of all time if they manage to screw things up from this juncture.
This would be the greatest choke. Every year we're like, would this be the greatest choke? This would be the greatest choke.
Liverpool aren't as far clear of their opposition as Newcastle were.
Are they? Well,
Were Newcastle 15 clear?
I thought they were 9.
Before they were beaten by Manchester United at St James's Park with that Cantona goal. Our viewers / listeners / yourself can correct me if I'm wrong of that. Liverpool's 10-point lead, I don't think, is the biggest lead a team has enjoyed at this stage of the season.
12 points. No, hang on, sorry. Go on. Sorry.
So this was obviously the 95-96 season.
Yeah.
But it would be an almighty collapse from this point.
At Christmas, they had a lead of 10 points, which stretched to 12 points.
Okay.
So
they're 2 points shy of what was the...
I mean, they're not really, right? Because we don't think Leicester City are going to win the league, do we?
Yeah, they were up against a Manchester United team that had won 2 of the previous 3 Premier League titles and then would win that season and win another 2 more after that, let alone what they managed to do in later Ferguson years. They were up against one of the great teams. Liverpool have no opposition.
Well, Manchester City are a really good team.
Not our really good team. They were.
Yeah.
In Premier League terms, they were. Right now, they are not.
So they were record-breaking last season.
Yeah, and the season before, they were one of them. Like, when I'm talking about the great Premier League teams, the Pep Guardiola side of the last 2 seasons are in the debate. I'm just wondering, is it too early to add Liverpool to the debate? Up there with the Mourinho-Chelsea side that broke 100 points and went 40 games unbeaten. The 2 Manchester United teams that won 3 in a row from 99, 2000, 2001, 7, 8 and 9. There are no other teams, really. It's just those 3 and the Arsenal Invincibles. So it's those 4. Liverpool are 34 games unbeaten. They're on an astonishingly long home record unbeaten. And they only lost once all last season.
Didn't the Invincibles draw a lot of games?
Well, they did, but that's not something you could ever hold against that Arsenal team.
Well,
they went 49 games unbeaten.
We are nitpicking here because we're trying to decide which of these teams is the best, right? Or that's the conversation you're having, right?
Yeah.
So you got to pick some nits in the Invincibles. An amazing record, obviously so difficult to do.
And only won 1 title. In a row. They'd obviously won the Premier League in 2002 as well.
Yeah.
But the Invincibles team they never won 2 in a row, which I think you hold against them.
Yeah. I think I'd like to see their league table at the end of the season. What would Liverpool have to do? Apart from win the league,
To officially be in this debate, they have to win a league. Okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Now,
and even then...
certainly they will do so.
Do they get super bonus points for finishing so well last year and being so good?
Once the league title is in the bank, it definitely adds to the argument.
Well, then Arsenal's previous title would also add to their argument, so they're kind of back in, right?
Well, I'm not eliminating Arsenal. I'm just saying that if you were looking for cons when it comes to the Arsenal team, the fact that they never won more than 1, they never managed to back it up. Like that Mourinho-Chelsea team at least won 2 in a row. City won 2 in a row and held off the greatest title charge in the history of the Premier League in what Liverpool did last season.
Which weirdly didn't really feel that invigorating because you never thought that Manchester City were going to crumble, which is a sign of their greatness, I suppose.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
And also the weakness of the rest of the league.
But I think you add what Liverpool did last season to what they're doing this season. And look, if you and I were to sit down in 8-12 weeks' time and have this exact same argument, it wouldn't really be an argument as to whether they're one of the great Premier League teams.
Because you think that they will be crowned at that stage?
Well, they play Manchester City on the 4th of April at the Etihad Stadium. That is the day that, if they don't lose between here and then, they will emulate the Arsenal team, 49 games unbeaten.
Stephen's Day, obviously, they've got Leicester City
Yeah,
That would
away from home.
officially end the title if they win that.
Yeah, assuming the two teams win their next game in between and say the gap is still 10 points. If it's 13 points, even Liverpool fans will tell you that the league title race is over. I understand completely why Liverpool supporters are so reluctant to tell you that it's going to be their year. You would be in that position, wouldn't you? I remember being a Dubs fan in 2011, and even when Stephen Cluxon had kicked that free and you knew there was no time left, it had been a long, long time since 1995. You're still thinking, no, something's going to happen that will take this moment away from us. Nothing will happen to Liverpool that can possibly take that moment away from them. My only fear from Liverpool's point of view is that if the lead came down to 8 or 7...
It would need to be 3 before they...
Well, at what stage does the unbearable pressure kick in?
Did it not kick in 2 years ago, 3 years ago, before Jurgen Klopp arrived? It's not pressure now as much as a celebration of the great team that they've built, because this group have already won a Champions League and are still title contenders. The Champions League win didn't come out of nowhere. It came on the back of steady stuff that was layered on achievement after achievement and brilliance after brilliance.
It did, but there was no real pressure on them in the Champions League. They were not Champions League contenders in the eyes of most going into those campaigns, either last season or the season before, even though they'd lost the final against Real Madrid and a game that they should have won. They would have been on the list of pretenders to the throne going into last season's Champions League. But would you have had them in your top 2 or 3?
I think they were pretty close to...
They were thereabouts, but like it wasn't...
Well, we were still overvaluing Real Madrid and, to a lesser extent, Barcelona. But after that, Man City...
Yeah, Bayern, PSG as well. But I would have had Man City ahead of them going into last season's competition, given how brilliant City were in the Premier League last season. But I don't think there was that much pressure associated with Liverpool going into these huge Champions League games. Like, they lost 3-0 at Barcelona in the semi-final first leg last season. So there was no pressure on them going into their second leg, semi-final second leg. This is entirely different. This is 30 years of hurt, 30 years of wondering would it ever happen again. 3 or 4 times in those 30 years they've come so close. Rafa in 2009, Brendan Rodgers 2014, last season.
There's no pressure now because everybody keeps falling away. Like if
obviously lessens the pressure to the point where it looks like there's absolutely no opposition, and nobody expects Leicester to be able to keep up the pace.
And they haven't been.
And they dropped 2 points at the weekend, and I would think now that it's back to double digits, like that is the end of it, which is a real pity.
Yeah, it would be the greatest league of all time. If
it would. No, we've said that many times over the years. You take the top side out of it, you could throw a blanket over the rest of the teams. But I also wonder, and I'd be interested to get Liverpool's fans take on this. They won't care how they win it or when they win it, because they haven't won it in so long. And if you told Liverpool fans after Alan Hansen's lifting that Premier League title, or the league title, the old First Division title, which is now held aloft by the Championship winners, isn't it, that you'd have to wait 30 years for this to happen again, they will not care how this comes to pass. But would it take some of the lustre off it if things continue as they are now and their opposition just continues to fall away?
No.
If it's over at the end of March.
No, they'll be
and in a game they're not even playing.
That's even better. They get 3 months to
Leicester have drawn with
celebrate it.
Watford at Vicarage Road at the end of March. And
Happiest of happy times. No physical exertion required. The party that night is perfect. At that point, if they haven't lost a game, then the pressure will be to join the Invincibles as a Premier League team who went through the season unbeaten.
It will also take some of the pressure away when it comes to them doubling up in their Champions League if they're still in the competition, because suddenly they won't have to worry about the Premier League games as much. But you're right, if they do get to the point where they're crowned champions and they're still unbeaten, there will be a little bit of added pressure in trying to remain unbeaten and do what Arsenal did in 2004. But it's I do believe they are one of the great Premier League teams. They have overtaken Newcastle now as the greatest Premier League team never to win a Premier League title.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, there were good Villa teams at the time, but not as good as that Newcastle team.
Come on! Well, one good Villa team that went close in '93.
I mean, Newcastle finished third, right?
In 96.
Yeah,
did they finish third?
I think they finished. I think they.
God.
Isn't the joke the only horse ever to finish third in a 2-horse race? Right. I could be corrected on that. There's probably some other teams who managed that.
But is that a fair thing to say, that they are the greatest Premier League side never to win a title?
Suarez Rodgers' team?
No, this team is better than that. Given what they've achieved in Europe, and given that it's not just this is not a one-season
They're not
thing.
a Rafa Torres team?
Yeah, they went very close in 2009, but theirs was a brilliant charge made late And they would have come so close. You'll remember that day when Federico Macheda got the winner for United against Villa. United were on a bad run at the time. I think they'd lost at least 2 in a row, if not 3 Premier League games in a row, one of which was the hiding they got at Old Trafford against Liverpool when the 2 full-backs scored. Aurelio, the Brazilian full-back, and De Sena. Did he score that day as well?
Maybe, yeah. Wow.
But that was Liverpool charging late, and Torres was on fire. But this is the greatest Liverpool team of the Premier League era. And as things stand right now, 34 games unbeaten, added to the book of work that they delivered last season in going so close to winning it and only losing 1 game, they're definitely the greatest Premier League side not to have won a title. And that's going to change in the next 16 weeks.
Emma, a resident Liverpool fan in the box, says Salah has now scored more goals than Torres and Suarez have for Liverpool in less games.
And he's having a really bad season, apparently.
I'm told. It was like, it just needs to keep going here with the bad form. It's like, when you start to backheel them in, things are going all right for you. Here's what's coming up on the show. A very busy show. It is Christmas time, so we're going to help you with some Christmas gifts a little bit later on. Kenny Cunningham at 8 o'clock to look back on the weekend's football. If you have anything you want to ask him about, you can tweet the show using the hashtag OTB AM. Katie Taylor up against the Galway Hurlers is the second last quarter-final, I think, of where we stand in the last quarter-final. So for a place in the semis, it's Katie Taylor against the Galway Hurling All-Ireland. We didn't manage to distill that down to one single thing. SPOTY is coming your way at 8:45. Rugby with Alan Quillen around about 9:05 after a fairly interesting weekend on and off the pitch, or on the pitch and on the sidelines in the Heineken Champions Cup at the weekend. Gary O'Hannon's going to be in with us a little bit later on to talk us through a Christmas gift guide. Are you ready for Christmas? Are you using your trip into town today to...
I do have to assess where I am once I get off air here with you. And I know we've got another little bit of work to do once we're finished as well. But once I get a little bit of freedom in the early afternoon, I'll have to sit down and figure out exactly where I am. I think in terms of the adults that I have to get for, I'm pretty much there. But there are 1 or 2 other bits and pieces that need to be sorted out.
Okay, well, Best Menswear have the men in your life sorted this Christmas. Beautiful gifts from top brands like Hugo Boss, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein and Marco Capelli, with gifts from as little as €20. They'll take the pain out of Christmas shopping for you all this week on OTB AM with thanks to Best Menswear. We've got prizes every morning to help you in the build-up to Christmas. You can win a €100 gift voucher to Best Menswear on OTB AM this morning. Just share this morning's show, and the best comment on the weekend sport will win. And make sure you either tweet us or share the stream wherever you're watching it. And as I said, Gary Hannon's going to be in to help us pick a present for the foodie in your life. Papers now.
OTB AM.
The front page of the Irish Times sports section this morning is De Bruyne produces a masterclass. Gifted Manchester City midfielder a joy to watch as Arsenal are reduced to helpless onlookers. Wounded Munster in winner bus mode for trek to Paris. Unseemly fracas during Saracens' clash to be investigated by EPCR. So those sensitive souls at Saracens didn't like what was said. Here's the description. Moving into the 50th minute of the game prior to a Saracens line-out, it's understood that Dr. Kearns took objection to Jamie George kicking the ball at Niall Scannell, and at some point in a lengthy face-to-face exchange told him to F off, you fat P. It's P... exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. So you can kind of work out what that is. I mean, it could be penis. I don't think it is. It could be prick. Seems more likely.
I would say that's where I would have my money.
Yeah. What else is like 5 letters?
When did we get to the point where
P?
prick had to be...
I don't know. I mean, come on.
Exclamation marks. At what point did we pass the...
And what kind of sensitive soul is Jamie George that like this? But the worst part was Mark McCall coming out and saying, "Oh, he said something very unfair." What was the exact phrase that they use?
There's more to it than...
Something pretty bad was said to Jamie.
And when I heard that initially, before we'd found out exactly what the detail was, I'd assumed something had been said maybe about a member of his family, or maybe there's a backstory with Jamie George in terms of a personal loss of some description, because there have been some pretty filthy things said to people in the past on sports fields.
But it turns out none of that is even alleged. Exactly.
Which I just think Saracens were... I think Saracens would have been easily offended after what had gone over the last couple of weeks, because they are obviously in a position where they're able to develop a siege mentality over what's gone on off the field.
Yeah.
and
They cheated. They got called on their cheating, and now they're like, "Oh, everybody's out to get us because we were cheating." Well, yes, we are out to get you because you were cheating because you were cheating.
But that's exactly what you would do if you were Saracens or any professional outfit in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I might not be so sensitive that I'd be trying to get this doctor in trouble for something that, like, Jamie George kicks the ball at Niall Scannell while he's being treated by a doctor. That's the type of stuff that's supposed to get you in trouble.
But ultimately, when this is investigated and if there are any repercussions, I don't think the doctor is going to be the person that will be banned or suspended or punished in any way. I obviously commentate the rugby a lot, and the referees' mics where they are nowadays, we pick up foul language all the time. There are some terrible things said on the rugby field with teammates speaking to each other, opposition players having a go at each other. And
I thought that rugby, they're scared of the audio because the referees are mic'd up, so there was less of it. It's
more expletives rather than insults that have been traded.
Yeah. Well, there was definitely an Ireland-England international one time where the ref mic picked up Steve Thompson being called also fat, but not the P word, the C word, by his opposite number at the time. And I mean, you know, I'm fairly sure that most Irish rugby fans were like, "Yeah, go on."
Yeah,
this stuff's not serious.
No, this is the fact that a melee broke out is the serious part of it. That's why it needs to be investigated, because the EPCR absolutely have to look at this situation. You can't just allow a row to spill over into the stand or very close to where supporters were sitting and not do anything about it. That's the issue.
Yeah.
The issue isn't that somebody was called an FP in the midst of a game.
No.
That is not the problem here.
No.
But Saracens obviously would have felt, not only because of the stuff that went on off the field, but a lot of stuff that was said in the build-up to the first Munster game where they were, you know, displaying disdain for the integrity of the Heineken Champions Cup by the 15 that they picked. Even though as I looked at the 15, I thought at least 7 would be starting in a Champions Cup final were it to be this afternoon.
Yeah, and the thing is, 3 or 4 other players go off the boil. So there's probably only 3 or 4 who were actually away from a full choice team. And then there's a picture of Michael Connell in the back there after his win against Vladimir Nikitin. We'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. Tyson Fury has changed his coach. Picture of Andy Lee when he was making the announcements, but it's not actually Andy Lee who's going to be his coach. At least we don't think so yet.
Yeah, we better ask him. I'm up next, yeah. The Examiner Sport, Kevin De Bruyne humbles Arsenal as Lundberg urges quick managerial decision. You've seen these goals, have you?
No.
The first one is an absolutely wondrous strike. You could call it on the volley. The ball is just on the rise as it arrives to him. A really good cutback to the edge of the area. Smashed into the roof of the net with perfect control and precision by his right foot. And then the third goal of the game is also Kevin De Bruyne as he curls the ball from outside the area into the bottom corner with his left foot. It's astonishing. He looks equally as adept on both feet, which all top Premier League pros should be. The other major one that we see out of the stories there is Peter Jackson, ruthless Leinster reach hitherto untouched peaks, which I'm sure will come up with Alan Quinlan later in the morning when we have him in studio. But myself and Quinny were commentating on the game on Saturday afternoon, and Leinster are imperious, although their opposition leaves a little to be desired, I would think, in this pool.
The Irish Daily Mail here is Brawl Probe. Munster face sanction over Sarri scrap. Munster are facing a possible sanction in the coming days, with European rugby chiefs launching an investigation into the events surrounding a mass brawl during the game. And then first cut not deep as Clare edge tip. Mark McCarthy takes a sideline cut for Tipperary in Nini yesterday, and not ideal hurling conditions. You can see the groundsmen have done their best to get the pitch ready, but hurling in December is tricky, and you know, not a lot of growth in that grass. Freddie proud of Gunners despite thrashing, so Freddie Lundberg has the air of a man who knows that the end is nigh. Arseblog was on saying that he hears an announcement is imminent in the next 24 hours. It could be anything. It could be the new manager, or it could be Freddie staying until the end of the season, but you surely, if you're
it's unlikely to be the latter, isn't it?
You really hope it's not, right?
Yeah.
Like he can go back and continue to learn his craft, I believe is the phrase.
Well, if the guy that they want is available, he has to be in today. But we shall see on that one. The back of the Irish Daily Star, Santa's little helper. The FAI will ask Sports Minister Shane Ross for government financial support at a Leinster House summit this evening. O'Driscoll abuse. Brian O'Driscoll has blasted Saturday's ugly brawl between Munster and Saracens, saying we don't want that in our game. And all gone wrong. Lundberg's hopes of becoming the permanent Arsenal boss were left in tatters following a festive farce at the Emirates yesterday.
Farce. Yeah, okay, that's that. Fred get a move on with new bosses. The back page of the Irish Sun. That's Freddie Ljungberg telling his Arsenal overlords to get a move on. And Ozil in China row, then sub tantrum, gloves are off, is the big headline there. So Mesut Ozil had something to say about the Chinese government's treatment of a Muslim population. Arsenal immediately distanced themselves from it because they don't care what goes on. They're a business and they want to make money. And the game was not shown on Chinese TV. The Man City Arsenal game was removed from Chinese state TV after Ozil's tweet. So fair play to Mesut Ozil for actually standing up for something he believes in. Not everything that Mesut Ozil does and says and supports would be something that you could row in behind, but such is the complicated way of life.
You know, it was interesting. Arsenal said, you know, this is merely the personal opinion of Mesut Ozil, but we are not political as a club, despite the fact that they tell their players to wear, or they would like their players to wear the poppy on Remembrance Sunday, and they're perfectly happy to get fully behind the Rainbow campaign, as they were a week ago, as all clubs did and should have done. But to say that they're 100% apolitical isn't quite accurate. But maybe when it comes to a massive £700 million TV Premier League deal, you have to make sure that people know what side of the fence they're sitting on.
Paddy Dempsey has ditched plans to join the FAI board just 24 hours after being selected by the Schoolboys Football Association of Ireland as its nominee. The DDSL chairman, Dempsey, was the unanimous choice to replace John Early at the SFAI council meeting on Saturday. So John Early was obviously part of the board going back and had announced that he was leaving immediately over the course of the weekend. The Schoolboy Football Association had got to nominate a replacement, and they nominated this guy and from the DDSL, and he was a controversial choice to say the least, because there were questions asked about a statement that the DDSL issued backing Delaney. Whenever all those statements came out from Schoolboy and grassroots backing Delaney, and as soon as those questions were made public, Dempsey withdrew his candidacy. So we'll see who the Schoolboys send forward for the new board.
Now, the back of the Times of London, Ozil attack sparked China retaliation. We've just mentioned that. And a picture of Duncan Ferguson in his shirt and tie at a windswept, freezing, icy Old Trafford yesterday afternoon.
Did he get the job? I mean, he's doing all right. It's a terrible decision, but like, it'll be brilliant.
Well, him getting the job until the end of the season wouldn't be, you know,
ridiculous.
One that would leave me awestruck. That's plausible. If he continues to draw/win games against better teams, like he's gone to Old Trafford and they've hosted Chelsea, and they've emerged unbeaten from those two games.
I mean,
it's a good start.
The alternative is he should just retire and go, look at my record, lads.
Like, he's obviously got no managerial experience, but neither did Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in terms of a really big club. Like, I know he had times at Molde and a shorter time at Cardiff City, but if he has a similar run, and they go on a similar run to that which United went on when Solskjaer took the reins, who knows? He could be installed as the permanent manager with a 3-year deal by the end of March.
We'll play you some Seamus Coleman a little bit later on. He's been talking after the game yesterday about what he thinks of it. Dire Gunners labour under delusions of adequacy. Eamon Sweeney is telling us that Jeremy Corbyn and Arsenal are the same. Munster need domestic title days to rid them of European losing days. DAYS and DAZE is the headline on David Kelly's piece.
Back of the Guardian, decision time for Arsenal. Ljungberg calls for clarity on his role after De Bruyne masterclass. And on the front of the Guardian is Ben Stokes holding aloft the BBC Sports Personality of the Year award. There was a time when this was a huge deal, and we all used to sit in on that Sunday night, and it was in a much smaller studio, and it was being hosted by Steve Ryder, and I loved every minute of it. And then something changed.
What happened? They lost rights. Is that the issue?
I don't know.
Everybody's criticising that, and I can't tell if everybody's criticising it because it's like it's easy, or...
I don't know if it's rights related. It's just that the sports broadcasting landscape is very saturated now. Also, they went big time. They brought it into was it the O2 Arena they brought it into?
Yeah.
Is that where it was last night? I'm not sure. And it just wasn't as intimate as it used to be.
So it's a live audience?
Yeah, it was always a live audience, but now it's It's this huge deal. It's like an arena now.
Right.
And I also think it is back in the day when we were watching in the 80s, you couldn't, if somebody mentioned an event that took place earlier in the year, God, you remember when someone won the Masters or whoever it was, you could just go on YouTube and say, and you could watch the last 10 minutes of you couldn't do that back then either. You wouldn't hear or see anything about it if it happened in April all the way through to the Sports Personality Awards. But interesting, I was in a taxi on Friday evening and I got into the taxi and I asked the driver where he was from and he said, I'm from Pakistan, and immediately he said to me, "Are you a cricket fan?" And I said, "Actually, I would. I do enjoy watching a bit of cricket." And the conversation meandered, and I mentioned Ben Stokes, and he, for a self-proclaimed cricket fan, he hadn't even seen or heard of what Ben Stokes had done in the Ashes during the summer.
Because it didn't matter.
Well, how can you be a cricket fan and not know?
Maybe
Like
the Ashes.
that arguably is the greatest sporting moment of 2019.
I mean, yeah. The Ashes is one of those weird things you kind of have to care
I'm
about.
talking about, this is not the thing that you and Tommy and the lads have made up about the great sporting moments
No,
of the
Dave.
decade.
No, Dave. You're off the Christmas card list.
I'm talking about actual moments. Do you know, when something happens in a moment.
A specific second.
Yes, when he scores those winning runs to win that test in the most unlikely fashion.
Was the World Cup not even more dramatic?
You could, if you're a cricket fan, definitely you could make an argument. I think, and he obviously was involved in that super over as well against New Zealand in that World Cup final. But having sat down for the whole afternoon and watched that innings unfold, and then that, for him to hit those winning runs, it was absolutely ridiculous. But the fact that this cricket fan from Pakistan, who has devoted his life to watching the Pakistani one-day teams and Test cricket teams, hadn't even seen it. He swore, he promised, as I left his taxi, that the first thing he did when he got home was going to go onto YouTube.
Oh, maybe he doesn't care about the
watch it
Ashes,
unfold.
you know? It's like, I can see if you're from Pakistan, you don't care that much about England and Australia and their weird made-up thing that they play every 18 months. Can you not?
No, not if you're a huge fan of cricket.
Well, it's like
that was the biggest single thing that was happening in the cricketing world. I've certainly kept abreast of
yeah,
matters
well,
in
I
the
have too, because
President's
it's
Cup
been on
over
the
the
sports
weekend.
news. It's been on the sports news, but like, and also because Tiger Woods. But that's it. I don't care about the President's Cup.
No, I don't care about it, but
Patrick Reed.
but I would
Patrick
watch
Reed's
it.
caddy being a bit of a dick. Like,
I didn't care whether England won that Test match or not.
Yeah,
I don't care about the Ashes.
I want to just bring you this. It's from Keena Foley's weekend takeaways. Ex-Kerry star proves he can still walk the walk. You seen this? It's more than a year since Kieran Donnelly announced his inter-county retirement, and he's made a swift and easy transition into punditry, as we know. But he proved he can still do more than talk the talk after a heroic score for his club Austin Stacks in the Kerry Division 1 League final, the first club game in the kingdom to be decided by spot kicks. Austin Stacks eventually beat Rathmore 4-3 on penalties. No surprise their veteran starman clinched the winner himself before being mobbed by his teammates. The last penalty, that's not a bad way. If that's the end of the football career, it's not a bad way to go, is it?
It's incredible that these guys are still playing club football at the end of December, isn't it?
They won the club championship. I'm going to get these titles wrong. They won the club championship at the start of the year.
Yeah, which then allowed them entry into the Munster Senior Club Championship
Only
when
if
Crokes didn't win.
Exactly, only if no
The
other
other county championship.
The county championship, yeah, because obviously East Kerry won that with the Cliffords. And yeah, so that's not a bad year for Austin. You know, at the end of year thing, there'll be 2 trophies.
Yeah. Yeah, when they're getting their medals delivered to them, might as well double it up.
Didn't do themselves any favours against Nemo, though.
Front page of the Telegraph sports section. King Kev, Guardiola hails De Bruyne's extraordinary masterclass. Lundberg tells abject Arsenal decide on manager now.
If newly tanned Kevin Kilban wins Dancing on Ice, will that be the headlines, King Kev? What other Kilban headlines can there be?
I'm not sure, you put me on the spot now. I'm sure King Kev will be the go-to headline.
Yeah.
It's I heard him on 5 Live on Saturday afternoon, and they were discussing how much weight he'd lost and how svelte he looked.
He's pretty skinny. Yeah, he was happy to have pictures of himself with his top off. That's a new thing.
That he's happy to have pictures
He's
taken
like,
with his top off.
Well, I mean, he's putting them on. If you're not following Kilban on Instagram, get over there. I presume that was him getting his fake tan done, was it?
I don't know. I looked at that picture for a couple of minutes trying to figure out exactly what the circumstances of it were, but
What?
I'm none the wiser. We better ask him to give us the detail when we're discussing it with him.
Yeah. Finally for me for now, Mirror Sport, Rough and Freddie. Brilliant De Bruyne kills off Lundberg's hopes of job as Ozil boils over for Gunners. That's him kicking, Mesut Ozil kicking his gloves away. Board nominee pulls out amid link to Delaney. And news coming that Shane Ross will meet FAI chiefs this week. Shane Ross will meet FAI bosses today after further confusion over board appointments. So that is one of the boards that just aren't working at the moment. And so more on that a little bit later on. It is bang on 8 o'clock this morning. Oh, we can watch here's the footage of, some footage from Kieran Donaghy and Austin Sachs winning the league. Oh, here we go. So Kerry Sports Hub, thanks for this. Come on, Dave, give us a bit of commentary on this.
Well, he struck it beautifully right-footed, sent the keeper the wrong way, sort of down the centre of the net. That's not the greatest penalty I've ever seen, but it was well struck. And
Keeper dives out of the way.
net, and he's been mobbed now by his teammates on the edge of the large rectangle. It's like they've won the All-Ireland Club Championship.
County League Division 1 title, that's class. But like, these penalty shootouts, why would anybody intervene? Why would anybody stop this happening?
No, it's great TV if it is being covered on TV. You can see what it meant to them there. I'm sure that added to the lustre of winning the game in the fashion that they did. It's a brilliant way to make sure things are decided on the day.
Yeah.
And in a fixture pile-up, in a sport where no real fixture structure is one of the biggest problems facing the organisation, keep the penalty kicks going.
Yeah, I agree.
It's great fun.
Here's the Irish news for you. Last one for now. It's Conlon getting better with each fight, says trainer Booth. So Adam Booth, very confident in how Michael Conlon is progressing. And there's a picture from one of the Winter League games as well above that. Right.